Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. So welcome to our Saturday morning session on Mundaka Upanishad. And we will continue on our journey of third Mundak, part 1. So far we saw that this Upanishad talks about two birds sitting on the same tree. One is Atma and another is Paramatma. Atma is Bhokta, Paramatma is just an observer. And then it talked about, four very principal, basic principles, which can actually lead us to realize Paramatma. Talked about Satyam, Tap, then Brahman, Samyak Gyan, and Nityam. Now, Nityam is actually the regularity in which we have to perform these four. So we have to stick to the Satyam. Satya is the foundation of this universe, and Satya is the Param Dham as well, and therefore Satya is very, very important. And Tap, if we have to suffer because of speaking the truth, and also we have to keep our senses under control, so that is sort of Tap. If we have to pass through bodily sufferings, we should be ready for that. And then Brahmacharya, a life which is regulated, which is, we follow a daily routine which is absolutely dedicated to the Supreme and to acquisition of knowledge. And then Samyak Gyan, that we acquire balanced knowledge which we apply in our daily life. And Nityam, we practice it every day, every time. There is no, intermittent practice. It has to be done regularly. So after that, there was a special reference to the truth. Satyameva Jayate. Now that is very important. Why there was a special reference to that? One mantra dedicated only to that, saying that the falsehood does not lead you anywhere. It is only the truth which prevails, because the Paramdham, the abode of the Supreme, is the reflection of the truth. And the world in which we live, the foundation of that world is also based on the truth. And that is why the truth alone prevails. Everything else with time will disappear, will not survive. And that is why there was very special reference to the Satyameva Jayate, which is also our national, you can say, slogan, or it's written on our national emblem. It is the symbol of our nation. Now, those people who follow the path of the truth, they go through the Devyan marg, the Divya marg, the marg of lights, in which, you are enlightened and you reach the abode of the Supreme. So this is the significance of the truth which was mentioned. Now we will go to mantra number 7. And we will take each of these words, because this mantra actually defines the Supreme. Similar wordings have come in Bhagavad Gita, also in Isavasya Upanishad. So I think we will go into little depth of each of these words, because these are very profound words and they have very subtle meaning. So we will analyze each of those words very properly so that we understand them in the right context. The first word is Brahad. Now, Brahad is Tat. Tat is the supreme. The reference Tat is to the supreme. And Brahad is which cannot be measured. It's also called Mahat. It's also called what we call, infinite. So Vrahat is, in another word in Sanskrit, is aprameya, which cannot be measured. It is so big. In fact, the Brahma is of the origin of the same, root in Sanskrit as Brahat. Briya. Briya is the root, that something which can expand infinitely. So that is what Brahat. Then Divyam. Divyam is that power which is self-illuminating. It doesn't require any illumination. In the world, when we see something, we need some sort of light, sunlight. For example, in deep dark night, you can't see even the tree in front of you. You can't see the houses. So what we need that time is some light. So the light is the medium through which we see things in the world. But there's only one thing in this world which doesn't require that medium of light. Like even in that darkness, you don't need anything to see yourself. You can see that, yes, I'm existing, I'm here. So that light is coming from that Divya Paramatma which is sitting, or Atma which is sitting inside. We don't need any light to realize our own existence, but we need light to feel the existence of a building or a tree or another human being or another animal in that darkness. You can't do that without light. But for your own self, you don't need any light, because the self is enlightened, and therefore that is called Divya. Divya is also reflection of a specific power. It is self-illuminating but also powerful. Like we also refer to some of the powerful deities as Divyam. Like even, for example, the deity of ears, Sravan, Indriya. These are also called Devta in certain ways. All the five senses which we have of perception, or five senses of action, they're also called Devta in so many Upanishads. That means that those senses have special powers. They are endowed with certain powers, and therefore they are Divya. So the word Devta also has its root in Divyata. So Divyata is the one which is self-illuminating. It doesn't require any other light to be realized. Like our own self, we can realize our existence even in the deep darkness. Then there is another word, Achintya Rupam. Achintya Rupam means you cannot think about the shape, the size, the root of the Supreme. Because here one thing we have to understand, that our thinking power and our imagination is actually regulated by our sense perception. Our senses, our eyes, our ears, our nostrils, our sense of touch, they give input to the brain. They give input to the mind. Like you see a book, you read, and you get some input. You see a building, you get some input. You see an airplane, you get some input. So these kind of inputs, you see an ocean, mountain, those inputs are given by our sense organs to the mind. And then mind's imagination and also the analysis of the intellect is confined to those things only which have been provided as input by the sense organs. Beyond that, your mind and your intellect will not move. That is a fundamental truth. If you can, analyze your own self someday, that the thoughts which are coming in your mind, they are based on what you have perceived over the years through your sense organs. They do not go beyond that. Sometimes, even in dreams, you go to certain strange places, but those are also based on some of the inputs which must have been provided either in your childhood or maybe in the last birth. So, the mind and intellect are constrained in that sense that their activities are confined to those inputs which have been provided by sense organs from our childhood till now. So Achintyam Rupam means that since the mind and the sense organs cannot provide the form of the Supreme, because the Supreme is Nirguna and Nirakar, and therefore the mind cannot think about it. So it's Achintya. Achintya because there's no input into the mind, like somebody gives you a statue or a deity. You go to a temple, you see a deity. Now you have an image. That image has been perceived by our sense organs and stored in the brain. Now that image goes to the mind and also goes to the intellect, and you can recall that image. But if there's no image at all, the sense organs cannot perceive the Nirgun Nirakar, then obviously the mind cannot think about it. And that is why it is Achintya. That is the reason that the form of the Supreme, of course there's no form, but if there's any form, it cannot be perceived because that has not been provided as input by our sense organs. Chay tat sukshmat. Tat sukshmat. Now, sukshmat sukshtaram. We have seen that we always say that he is suksham se bhi jyada suksham hai, or brahat se bhi jyada brahat. We have seen those, statements in Bhagavad Gita and also in Isavasya Upanishad. Now it says suksham se bhi suksham hai. Now this word suksham has to be understood properly. Suksham does not mean small. Our general perception is that there's something is of 1 foot long and another is 2 inches long. It means the 2 inches long is suksham. No, that is not the meaning here at all. Suksham means subtle here. The thing which can penetrate everything else. It is like it becomes so thin, thin. What has been explained is that if you cut your small part of your hair and divide it into 100 parts, then take the smallest, then again divide into 100, then take the smallest, then again divide into 100. Now that kind of explanation has been given in Upanishads about this suksham. So that suksham is the one which can penetrate everything else. It is so subtle. Like the chaitanya in our body, the consciousness in our body is so subtle that it can penetrate each and every small particle of this body. Now that is suksham. Suksham, we should not consider in terms of size. It is in terms of its what you call, expansion. The more it expands, the more it pervades the universe, the more suksham it is. Like Akash is also suksham, but Akash pervades this whole universe. But the Chaitanya is even more suksham than Akash. Akash pervades our body because our body cannot exist without Akash. Akash pervades this apartment where I am sitting in. The apartment cannot exist without Akash. So Akash is pervading everything. It's a theater in which everything exists. But the Chaitanya is even more suksham than Akash. And actually the Akash originates from that Chaitanya. That is, the first element which originates from that Chaitanya, from that what we call Avyakt. And therefore the Suksham means which can be the foundation of everything else, which prevails or which pervades everything else. That is Suksham. Suksham is not in terms of size, which is very small. It is not measured in terms of size. It is measured in terms of its vast expansion, pervading and permeating everything else. So this is what Suksham is. So he says the Suksham se bhi Suksham. What we see in our experience, the Akash is the Suksham. But it is even Suksham than that, more Suksham. So that is the Paramatma. Then Vibhati. Vibhati is basically, it's something like Divyam, that it manifests itself. Like when I'm speaking, then my consciousness is manifesting in my speech. When I'm moving my hand, my consciousness is manifesting in that movement of the hand. The hand will not move unless I'm having consciousness. If I'm dead, I cannot move the hand. I cannot speak when I'm dead. So the consciousness is reflected in every action we perform. That is called Vibhati. तो हमारे जो एक्शन है ना, जितने भी एक्शन हम करते हैं, चाहे आंखें बंद होती हों, कानों से सुनते हैं, नाक से सूंघते हैं, मुंह से बोलते हैं, ये सब एक्शन, all these actions are actually the manifestation of that Supreme sitting inside us. That is called Vibhati. So similarly, in the universal context, all that is happening in this universe. The winds are blowing, the rain is happening, the sun is shining, the moon is shining, the stars are moving from here to there, the earth is rotating. All that manifestation is the manifestation of that Chaitanya, that Vibhati. The Chaitanya is manifesting, the universal consciousness is manifesting in all these activities which are happening in the universe. So that is called Vibhati. So then the next word is Tat Durat Sudure. Durat Sudure. That is dur se bhi dur hai. Now we have seen that word elsewhere as well. We have seen in Isavasya, dur se bhi dur hai, paas se bhi paas hai. We have seen that in Bhagavad Gita as well. Now dur se bhi dur hai. Kya matlab hai iska? Normally we see that the distance, that okay, Delhi is, close and Calcutta is farther than my city, Jaipur. So that is how we calculate dur. It is not that duri. It is not the distance in space. It is not the kilometers. That is not the meaning of duri here. The duri is, it is in terms of knowledge. Some people who are covered with darkness, who don't have proper knowledge, for them discovering that supreme force is very far. Dur hai bahut. Jैसे a person who is greedy, completely involved in his, trading all the time, thinking about trading and earning more and more money. For a person like him, the Paramatma is very far, very, very far, because his tendencies are different. He is not in that direction at all. So his knowledge and his tendencies, his activities will not take him to the Supreme. And that is why it is very dur. बहुत दूर है वो. हम कई बार कहते हैं ना कि यार ये तो हमारे दूर का रिश्तेदार है. That means that, we don't have that close relationship with him. Though he is related, but we don't have that kind of affection which we do with somebody else. So that is the reflection, the how much love and affection you have towards the Supreme, that decides your duri. If you don't have any love and affection for the Supreme, if you don't have any desire to discover him, then you are very far from him. Then dur se bhi dur hai. But you can be very close if you have that desire, if you have that curiosity to know about him, to discover him, and you leave aside the worldly matters and try to work to discover him, then you are very close. So this is the meaning here. Dur ka matlab not distance in kilometers, not distance in space. It is actually the distance in terms of your curiosity, in terms of your love for the Supreme, in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your, uh, your, desire to find him. So once you have that desire, then you become close. But if you are not having that desire, then you are not close. So for most people, Paramatma is very far, dur se dur hai. But for some, he is very close. Close se bhi close hai because you consider him as the dearest to you. Because what is dearest to you? Your dearest to you is your own life. And he is your life. Actually, because of him, we are surviving. So if you consider that way, then he is very close to you. So that is the meaning, durat sudure. Tat durat sudure. Then he atinke. Atinke is samip. He is very close. Now the same thing here. He can be very close if you consider him, dear to yourself. If you have that knowledge that he is the foundation of everything. He is my life. I am alive because of him. And I should understand him. Then he is very close to you. So this is how the durat, sudure, atinke, these words have to be interpreted in that context. Because we have been listening to these words in variety of ways. So I thought we should understand their proper meaning. Iya paschatu. Ev guhayam nihitam. Guhayam nihitam. We have that already seen that he is sitting in the heart. Guhyatam. He is sitting in the heart. And he is also like the axis. From that axis, everything else in our body is connected. Our eyes are connected, our ears are connected, our hands are connected. Every particle is connected to that axis. So that axis is sitting in the heart. It's also called Anahat Chakra. It doesn't make any sound at all. It's absolutely making no sounds. Anahat, Ahat means to tap on something. And Anahat, it doesn't tap at all. It's absolutely quiet, calm, cool. But it is connected like we saw in the same Upanishad. It is connected like the axis. Like axis is connected to the various spokes of the wheel. Similarly, this axis is connected to every single particle. And because of that, we are able to speak, we are able to move, we are able to listen, we are able to see, we are able to eat, we are able to digest our food, we are able to walk. So whatever activities we do, it is because of that. So this is the explanation of that supreme power. That supreme power is Brahat, very large. Very large means aprameya, which cannot be measured. It is beyond our imagination. The maximum imagination we can do is the horizon of this space. Now, horizon of this space is nothing. That is Brahat. Brahat means immeasurable, infinite, which we cannot imagine because we cannot see infinite things that cannot be perceived by our sense organs. So one is Brahat, then Divyam, that is self-illuminating. We don't need any outside light to see that. And it has special powers. Divyam. Then Achinteya Rupam. Sukshmat, Sukshamtar, that is absolutely subtle and permeating everything in this universe. That Isa Vasya Midam Sarvam, that Isa ka sab jagah nivas hai. Similarly here, that is Suksham, that is why it is permeating everything else in this universe. Durat Sudure, that is very far for those who have no love for him, who do not think about him, who do not, remove their darkness through knowledge. For them, he is very, very far. And for those who love him, for those who want to discover him, for those who want to, acquire knowledge so that you can understand him, for them, atinke, bahut nazdeek hai, bahut paas mein. And those people who have him very close, the last is atinke. Those who see him very close, they can actually see him in the, what we call guhyam, Hriday Rupi guhyam. We can see in our own heart that he is sitting right there. So this is the explanation of that supreme power which permeates this whole universe, which permeates our body completely, and which governs this whole, existence, which we see, whether it is moving existence or non-moving existence. In Vedic language, the existence have been defined as charachar, char and achar. Charachar sansar, that is the moving parts of the sansar and non-moving part. Moving part is all the species of life, whether it is human being or fish or a snake, and non-moving is like mountains, like the earth, the solid parts which are located in one place. So this is what he pervades the entire charachar sansar, the sansar which is moving and non-moving. He is the foundation of all that. So this is the explanation, and we thought we will understand each of those words properly. We also understood achinte, that you can think only about those things for which the input has been provided by your sense organs into the mind. Without that, we cannot understand. So this is mantra number 7. Now, mantra number 8 is also very profound mantra. Ne chakshusha gahyate napi vacha. Now, we will take maybe one part of that mantra number 8. Na chakshusha grahete napi vacha. Now, how do you approach that supreme? How do you realize that supreme? Some methods have been explained in this mantra number 7, that you should consider him close, you should develop affection and love, and acquire that knowledge which takes you closer to him. Remove that distance, not the physical distance, but the distance because of a lack of knowledge, the distance because of lack of love and affection for the supreme. So since we love ourselves, and ourselves is what? Ourself is that consciousness which is keeping me alive, which is making me talk and move and listen and hear and use my intellect. That is the consciousness. So if you love yourself, you love that consciousness. So start loving that consciousness, and love that consciousness in the global sense. Then you love the what you call universal consciousness, and that is where the beginning happens. So here in verse number 8, we will take it briefly. Ne chakshusha grahate napi vacha. Chakshu is here, vacha is here. They have used only two senses here, one sense of action and one sense of perception. Sense of perception is chakshu, and sense of action is vach, that is vachan, the speaking out. So you cannot grasp him either through your senses of perception or through the senses of action. That is what it says. That neither the senses of perception nor the senses of action can actually grasp the Supreme. Now, this is the problem. Now, if you cannot grasp it through the senses of perception, through the senses of action, how do you grasp it? Then it goes even further down. It says, tapsa and karmana. Even tap and karm cannot grasp him. You cannot reach him even through the tap and the karma and the action. Nanyar dev prastas tapsa karmana va. That you cannot reach him through your actions and through your penance, through your, sufferings. So how do you reach? So that how do you reach is very, very fascinating, and we have to analyze that in detail. So we will take that part in our next session. And next session, we will actually conclude this section of the first section of the third Mundaka. So we will take that in the next session. But this is very fascinating. So let us revise it for our own self a little bit more, that there are 5 major instruments: tap, brahmacharya, samyak gyan, and doing it regularly, nityam. These 5 things can lead us to the Supreme. These are the wage. And then, more emphasis on satyam, satyamev jayate, because the abode of the Supreme is also the truth. The foundation of this universe is also the truth. And therefore, the falsehood has no existence. It's only an appearance. And therefore, we should give more emphasis to satyam. And then it talks about how you define, how you understand the Supreme. You cannot really define the Supreme, but there are what we call neti. These things are not the Supreme. And Supreme has these things. So Supreme is Brahat, Supreme is Achintya, Supreme is Sukshamtar, Supreme is Vibhati, and Supreme can be very far, he can be very, very close. One can be realized, he can be realized in your own heart. So this is how this mantra is explaining to us. So we will go to mantra number 8 in greater detail next time, and then we will finish this part in our next session. So thank you very much for your attention, and let us take a determination that we will start loving our own consciousness more, so that we develop love for the Supreme, the consciousness of the universe, and then as a result, we will start loving all that exists in this universe. Thank you.